What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Jacked Ramsays Mail Bag Edition. Danny Marang, Brandon Sprague is, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. Why? Well, we're about an hour late because I hate my internet company. So there you go. Second time this week and third time in the past 2 weeks, my internet decided to go out.
You know what's funny about that is somebody tweeted us like maybe about an hour ago. It was like, yo, I got this question before the internet goes out again. And I was thinking, no way that's going to happen again.
Yeah, no, it was definitely down. Just frustrating as hell. But thank you all for being patient. I've got somewhere near 50 questions.
There's a lot of questions.
You guys were not short on them this time, that's for sure. We'll dive right into it. Again, thank you all for being here. Like, rate, review, subscribe, do all of the things. Share us with your friends, share us with family. We're on our way to 5,000. We're what, 9 times. 9 days away from the NBA trade deadline. Mm-hmm. The trade deadline will actually end as Dusty and my show starts on Thursday. So we will have you guys covered live as the deadline ends. Of course, it will be heading into Super Bowl weekend. But I would imagine the first hour of the show that day will be NBA trade deadline stuff. We'll dive into that as much as we can. But until then, we'll answer as many questions as we can. I'll try to give you as much intel as I can, or that I can kind of go into. There's always stuff being talked about, and more validity and legitimacy to some things, and certainly more pie in the sky and some more smoke screens on others. So, but we'll just kind of dive into stuff. But real quick. Since we didn't, it was just me last night on the After Dark. What did you think of the game last night against the Atlanta Hawks?
Exciting, nerve-wracking, frustrating, fun, and a win. I mean, like every emotion. I watched this with my 11-year-old, who she plays basketball, but she's actually been anti-basketball sports watcher person, and I've just kind of accepted that fate. And yesterday, she makes an offhanded comment, I'd rather watch football. And I was like, well, okay, I'll take that as a dad. And as the game's going on, she's like walking past the couch and she's eyeing it. She's like, And she walks past again. She's like, And she's watching, and this game is like going a little back and forth. Blazers are up most of the way. And eventually she's sitting on the couch and she's screaming at the television as if she is going to impact Bogdanovich's free throws. He misses 2 of the 3. She credits herself for being loud.
As one does.
And she's like full-fledged in it. She's like, come on, Aunt. Come on, Dame. I'm like telling her who different players are. I told her who Nasir Little was. I explained who Gary Payton, GP2 was.
Was your little Grinch heart growing?
Oh, my God. I'm such a dead person inside. But those are the moments that I'm like, yes, I'm still here. I still feel something. Mm-hmm. Those are the moments it was. So it was great, man. It was imperfect. Their defense was a disaster for decent portions of that game.
So hold on. I want to fight you on that one real quick. So keep that one. Keep going. We want to come back to that one.
Well, I'll wrap it up. But basically, her sitting on the couch next to me and us watching, it made me happy. It made me feel really good. And I'm glad that she got a win because she was emotionally a wreck the final
I remember those nights.
6 minutes. And I wanted to be like, hey, there's a lot of these. You just got to ride this way.
No, live and die with every single one of them.
But I didn't say that. I let her live and die with it.
Yes.
Her first experience was a positive experience.
Perfect. Well, that's always awesome. I selfishly, it's what I want to have children for, so I could live vicariously through their emotions. But no, I mean, I love that stuff. That's what's so cool is, that part of fandom, and not just the kids sharing emotion, but as a parent, like being able to share, your experiences with your kids. Like that's what me and my dad bonded over.
Yeah.
Like that was our thing. I imagine, that's the same for a lot of families, mom, dad, brother, sister, whoever it is that you go to games with. Like that's what sports ultimately ends up being about. And now to get away from the truly Sappy's love song that we're going with here, and going with, I didn't think the Blazers defense was bad.
Really?
No, I thought their ability to finish plays defensively was complete and utter dog shit.
Oh, but I mean, is that
I think those are two different things.
I
I believe they executed more often than not the way they wanted to, but they gave up 18 plus shooting possessions.
Yeah.
Because of offensive rebounds and putting them at the free throw line. Now, if you want to say fouling and rebounding are part of defense, yes, you're right, 100%. But I'm talking about the bones, the framework of their defense, what they wanted to do. I thought they did relatively well. They forced them into bad shots, or not bad shots, but less than opportune shots. They just didn't do what they needed to do to close out the possession. And that is a new issue that has popped up a little bit lately. Mm-hmm. They haven't been a great rebounding team by any means, but rebounding has not kicked them in the teeth like it has the last couple of games.
Yeah. They've been playing somewhat smaller, not to interrupt you too much, but
that's exactly it. And that's exactly it. And it shows that they can't go small yet because they're not big enough to go small. Mm-hmm. The other part about this is they lose that game if they don't take care of the ball the way that they did.
Oh, 100% agree with that. The turnovers being cut down were the key difference for them.
Yeah, I mean, 8 turnovers in the night, and you only had the one by Ant in the fourth quarter. So, but I thought that the whole idea of how they, with the exception of DeJounte Murray, who was just,
I mean, he couldn't miss. I mean, he's unbelievable.
Not to that, he was just nightmare feeling. That's Ant mentioned it in the post game. The whole idea of he was hitting threes, so he becomes a lot more of a beast because DeJounte. I don't think the average NBA fan watches a lot of Hawks basketball. And before that, they probably didn't watch a lot of the Spurs the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. DeJounte's a dude, and he's an athletic freak.
He's also an a-hole, which is great.
He is. He plays angry and with a chip on his shoulder. He's a plus defender, mm-hmm. and you saw what he can do offensively. And he's got some wiggle and some creation. I was talking to a few people last night. I was like, that's weird. Hawks seem to play pretty good without Trae Young.
That's kind of what my takeaway was, because also they didn't execute the way they wanted to defensively, but the pieces that they have and Bogey, I know Griffin's young, but he's coming along. I love Okongwu. He's really good as a backup 5. Capella, I mean, dear God, that one possession in the second half.
The 3 offensive rebounds over Nurk's head.
Holy shysters, man.
He had 6 offensive rebounds in the quarter.
But Danny, it wasn't just that he offensive rebounded. Mm-hmm. It was that he got miss, rebound, dunk it on your face, and then just round the rim and shake it like a little baby.
Mm-hmm. Shake it like a salt shaker?
That has just got to be demoralizing to be a Yusuf Nurkic and watch somebody do that to you.
Yeah. And he banged on his head all night long.
Yes, but they got him. Obviously Collins, who is the new modern-day Miles Turner. He's never going to get traded, but we'll talk about him being traded. Hunter's obviously a really good player, and Holiday's a little undersized, but that's kind of what I was thinking, man. I was like, they're not going to, because, I think Atlanta fans that exist.
Oh no. They could do what you think.
Well, I'd like them to. I think they should explore it. I'd pivot out of that, to be honest with you.
I have a reeling suspicion that a lot of people in Atlanta would love to see Trae Young on another team.
Really? You think fan-wise, not like team and personnel-wise?
No, I mean on the team.
Oh, okay. Well, I know, and I know fans don't always dictate who goes where, but I am curious about that because we both know somebody that hosts a radio show down there, and last I had talked to him, he basically was like Trae is in Atlanta. Trae is like one of the dudes. People love Trae.
Oh
Young.
Yeah, no, they do.
He's the FU guy to everybody else, and he's their funny little quirky shooting phenom that they drafted and has taken them to the conference finals. So.
Yeah, we'll see how that one shakes out. But yeah, ultimately, it wasn't a great win, but a win's a win with this team. And I thought you saw some stuff offensively, how effectively and efficiently they were able to score. They took care of the ball. I thought Ant did a great job as a playmaker, as a table setter. Chauncey and Damon, Ant all talked about that in the postgame. Jeremy found his shooting stroke again after having a couple games where it was kind of here or there. Josh came back and rebounded incredibly well. Shaden had some offensive flashes, obviously. Chauncey mentioned some defensive regression in that game. I can think of 3 plays off the top of my head where he just blew it. But I think Chauncey rode him for more minutes simply because the juice that they got from him like the crowd, the energy off
when
the
he
dunks.
makes a play, you feel it.
Yeah, no, it's something different.
I disagree with your first assessment of that, though. Like, it's not a perfect game, but at this point for this team,
no.
you
You
know what I mean?
You
Like,
need the win.
They need that win.
And Dame mentioned like it's so much easier to try to like address things and fix things when you're not losing. It's much easier to address them than following a win. You feel better about it. It's very, I don't know, mentally it's less taxing.
I think that's kind of what my takeaway was, and not having spoken to Dame at all at any one point this year, I find myself as a fan and even as, media guy, I wonder in my head how he's feeling after certain moments, right? So like if they go on a losing streak, I'm like, God, I wonder where he's at right now mentally. And it's not like a questioning if he's toughing it out. It's more just like how demoralizing it has to feel to play. I mean, this dude his January was insane. That it's one of the best runs of his career.
Yes.
I mean, the shooting, the percentages, he's on a 50, 37, 91 split for the month of January. I said this on my radio show. I forgot to say it on our last pod. When you talk about high-level scoring, so like 40, 50, 60 points.
He's had 4 40-point games this month alone.
Danny, I looked up his numbers, and it's not an exaggeration if you're using shooting splits to say that he is probably the most efficient high-end scorer in NBA history. His numbers are better than Michael Jordan's.
No, when he goes on a tear, he
goes,
burns the world down.
When he goes. Like he's getting 50 on 24 shots, or you know what I mean? Like he is going absolutely insane. And so I always wonder how he's feeling about that. They have not been winning a whole lot. And so I can't imagine how emotionally taxing it would have been last night for them to have that kind of outburst, get that close, and then end up losing to the Hawks, who didn't have Trae Young, versus doing what they did.
Yeah. I mean, in talking to Dame last night, I think there was a sense of relief of, hey, we didn't drop a close one. More than anything else. And for those wondering, in the month of January, the only person who scored more points per game was Joel Embiid, and he played 5 less games than Dame. Dame played 15 games, 37 minutes a night, took 21 shots, shot 50, 37, 91, with 8 assists, 4 rebounds.
Jeez, man. Unbelievable. 15th player of the week of his career.
And then pulling up the advanced numbers.
I mean, I'm trying to think of the month of January. I mean, who would you pick over him for player of the month? Because Joel's going to get it in the East.
It's Joel or Giannis in the East. The West.
For sure. Luka maybe has a case.
Luka, Braun.
Yep. Yeah, Braun's been good since he turned 38. I know Jokic just had a few games there, but if we're just talking about stats and numbers, I don't know, man. I don't know if those are better than Dame's numbers.
Yeah, no, I think he's probably he's certainly a finalist.
Yeah,
for player of the month. There's no doubt about it. And after last night, another 40-point performance in the month, and it was another game in which he had 20 or more at half. I believe that was the 8th time in the month. 20 or more at half.
I had Hiken on this morning, and he said, "Yeah, me and Marang were sitting next to each other, and he hit a bucket, and he said you and him looked at each other and went, Dame has 31?"
Yeah,
and it was like one of those like you knew he was playing well, you know he's hitting his shots, but it's like one of those games where you just look.
It was just ho hum.
Damn, man, like he's already at 30. It is. It's very ho-hum.
Because he wasn't, the last like 5 games that he's been scoring, he hasn't been jacking shots.
No, that's the efficiency.
Yeah, and you're like, because you look at the end of the night, what he had 42 on 21 last night.
Yeah.
17 free throws changes it, but
sure.
21
That's
shots. 21 is a normal night. Literally, he's averaging 21.2 shots a night.
Yeah.
So it's his average for the month.
Danny, I had somebody tweet me that they didn't even know he was close to 60 the night he got 60. They were like, yeah, I didn't realize how close he was until we got to like 50. And I was like, not being there, I'm like, damn, really? But
that one I felt.
Okay, well, that's kind of what he
had 25 or 26 at half.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was like 40's definitely happening. 50's probably happening. I think I said something along the lines of 40 piece for sure, 50 piece probably. More? Question mark. I was like, depends on kind of how the game goes, but like the 50 ball was always kind of like, yeah, there. His ability to turn this on and do what he has done, it's tremendous. And what do they have? 8 more games? I think 7 more games for the deadline.
The break?
Yeah,
I want to. For the deadline.
No, before the Let's just say deadline. So you've got Memphis, Washington, Chicago, and then home against the Bucks, and then the Warriors on the 8th.
What day is that
So
Bucks
that's
game?
5. Bucks is Monday the 6th. Is that one maybe you should go to?
I mean, I'd love to, but basketball practice.
Oh.
Coach.
That'll do.
Yep. Hey, you want to have kids still? Remember you just said that like 20 minutes ago?
That's what nannies are for. Come on now. They go to practices too, right? All right, let's get All right, let's get into the questions here because there's so many of you sent questions, so appreciate you. A couple of you sent in one. We'll start with this about Shaden not going to the Rising Stars game. I'm surprised.
I thought it was bullshit.
Genuinely surprised.
Yeah, he's already there for the dunk contest. It's a game where we talk about no defense. There is a game that, like, they just do and one mixtape stuff or throw lobs the whole game. Why would you not want one of the highest leapers in the league to be there?
My only thought process, thinking from the outside in, was that he is already there. So why not get exposure for one more rookie?
Yeah, I mean...
that's my devil's advocate, but the other guy that they invited was AJ Griffin. And the only thing AJ Griffin does is shoot corner threes. Like, he's not. Right. Like, if you're putting on a show, Shaden is at the top of that list.
It's why Tim Duncan is a boring all-star.
Yeah,
like he just wants to be back to the basket, glass bank guy, which is obviously
totally
all-time
fine
stuff. But that ain't all-star stuff.
Yeah,
that ain't why we tune in. And so it's like, I hear what you're saying, but the Rising Stars game, man, I know NBA All-Star Weekend doesn't mean everything to everybody. I love it. I always have. I always kind of felt like that was a nod to good start to your career, Rook.
Yeah,
100%. And he hasn't been perfect, but damn, man, he gets the minutes. I feel like
the highlight stuff. I don't think there's been a rookie this year that has had more spectacular highlights. Paolo's had a couple. Matherin's had a couple. Murray's had a couple. Ivy's had a couple. But
nothing.
Shaden has done some insane shit. Like,
I mean, if he would have finished that windmill last night.
Oh Jesus!
Windmill would have been.
I audibly gasped from me. It was a
dude. So did I watching it. I was on my couch and I went, oh, and he missed
because I saw Gary and I was like, oh no! Like when he threw the pass under him, I was like, there's no way. And when he caught it and started to rotate, I was like, he's gonna windmill that.
Would have been the greatest dunk in Blazers history if he would.
It would have been a dunk that they replayed throughout the entirety of his career.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Because the way the crowd reacted, even on the miss, like the pure audacity to do that. A windmill alley-oop in game.
You could hear the crowd on TV, by the way.
Like gasping.
Holy crap, he almost got that.
It was.
And I want that in the Rising Stars.
Yes, that's exactly my point. But as far as like, why? That's the only thing I can come up with. Otherwise, it's all very dumb.
Who decides it again? Who decides that?
I think that's coaches.
Interesting.
I think what's really funny about this is when I first talked to Shaden about the dunk contest in Seattle in the preseason. I was like, man, you really should do the dunk contest. And he's like, you think so? And I was like, you're already going to be down there for the Rising Stars game. He's like, you think so? And I was like, yeah, I think so.
Damn.
Turns out I'm an idiot.
You were kind of right, though. He is down there.
He is down there, and he's down there for the dunk contest. But that's the only thing I could kind of figure out. This from Ben. 1 year later, how are you feeling about the team and the projection of this team compared to a year ago at this time with pending moves to be made?
I thought this was a great question, by the way. I know there's a lot of good questions here, but this was one that really kind of caught my eye of,
the reframing of everything?
The check-in. Yeah. Yes, I like the check-in. So where we were last year versus what we kind of expected and where we're at right now. A lot of what they've done, I kind of mentally thought it's what they would be. The only thing I would counter is I thought this team would be a little better win-loss wise. I thought this team would be somewhere in that, and I know they're close in the win-loss column, but I thought they'd be somewhere in like the 7-9 range pretty comfortably most of the way. Whereas, injuries have kind of played a part in this, and then defensive tendencies have gotten in their way at certain points. Obviously, I think there's a certain guy in their starting lineup that is not playing as much, and he's kind of gone back to his former self at his last team, and the attitude's not great, and so they're playing smaller, so they're having to make up for some stuff. They're a little worse than I thought they would be. That's me. I'm sorry.
We just
ESPN.com.
We just got a DMCA claim.
Yeah, I'm sorry. ESPN.com. But yeah, I think they're about what I expected. I just win-loss wise thought they'd be better than this. Whatever you want to frame that, who you want to blame, multiple people don't matter to me. Like I thought they would be better win-loss wise.
I think that they're quite literally 4 games off of where I expected them to be. And for me, it's the same 4 games that the players have all kind of told me. The Denver game, they have to round. The Pacers game, where they had like 31 assists, and then they went, 7.5 minutes without scoring?
Yeah.
After just like firing on all cylinders, they just came to a screeching halt. The Orlando game, and
the Orlando game hurt, man.
Yeah. I've watched that game through at least 3 times, and then the individual looks for Dame and Ant probably like 5 or 6 times a piece. Because I was like, I was racking my brain over. I'm like, is there anything different that I would have done here? Like, I was talking to somebody who works in the analytics community that I thought this is a great way of framing this, in that he said, anytime you're watching tape on somebody, pause it as they let the shot go. Are you happy with the shot? That's how you rate a shot. Without knowing the result, without knowing what's going to happen afterwards, are you happy with the shot? In that Orlando game, they're 6 of 35 from 3, legitimately 27 open looks. I would say of the 35 threes they took, 30 of them I was happy with. That's just a bleh.
Yeah, you just went ice cold.
And then the Laker game, blowing a 25-point lead.
That one almost felt like a season breaker, to be honest with you. The vibe after losing that game with that blown lead, that one felt like the most crushing.
Yeah, but those 4 games, those aren't coin toss games. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of stupid shit happened for them to lose those games.
I was at the Denver game.
The Denver game, like, everyone's like, oh, it was a game-winning shot. And I'm like, the series of events that led up to that game-winning shot was a train wreck. I'm not mad about 4 minutes, or 4-point game, 2 minutes to go, because shit can just happen. It just can. Again, the basketball gods, you want to be on the good side of coin toss stuff, but historically it's coin toss. But in the long run, it just works itself out. That's where I ultimately fall. But as far as where I am with this team, as far as how I feel about the team, God, this sounds so weird. Not only do I feel the same, I might feel even better, in the sense of I know which way they want to go wholly now. Like, I'm nearly certain the Nurk experiment era is over.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're around it. I'm not, but I tell you right now, as an observer, it feels cooked. It feels done.
I mean, when you play Drew Eubanks 11 minutes and 52 seconds of the fourth quarter last night against the Hawks, and calf injury be damned.
When you play the dude you just gave a 4-year contract to this past summer, 6 seconds in the fourth quarter of a tight game, when you need size because they have athletic size, like, yeah, that's who is the comedian? It was that redneck dude. Here's your sign. Like,
Bill Engvall.
Yeah, it's like, here it is. It's right out there. Like, we're not keeping you for very long.
But yeah, now whether or not they are able to achieve their hopes and dreams and their goals at the deadline, but
tough. Yeah.
But I do think that what they want to do is to get bigger, longer, stronger, more athletic, and that would entail moving on from Nurk. Just kind of is what it is at this point in time. But thanks, Ben. I thought that was a really good question.
I did too.
Jeff Workman at JWKS. Any scenario where Josh remains in PDX beyond the deadline, what's the likelihood of Keon being traded? Seems like he is at a point where he deserves to play so he can continue to develop. Can't get minutes here. Is there any scenario where Josh remains in Portland at the deadline? Sure, there's always a scenario. The default position should always be somebody who's not getting traded because you're more likely to not get traded than you are to get traded. Unless it's just unless they're just absolutely cooked. But I don't think Josh is here past the deadline. There's far too many teams that are interested in him. There's far too many packages out there that I think make sense for the Blazers. I don't believe he's going to be traded until up to the deadline because of that exact reason, unless somebody just blows them away because they want them more than somebody else. But that Josh, I think he's going to be moved. Likelihood of Keon being traded. So selfishly, I want Keon to stay here because I think he's a wonderful human. I've shared the story that I've talked to him in the hallway about a month ago now, just kind of checking in on him after his father passed away this summer, and just the level of maturity and responsibility in his answers, and just like it just has me pulling for the guy. And like I just want to be able to like be close to that and see him and his development. But I know he needs to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
There's 5 guards in front of him. There just is. There's just 5 guys in front of him.
Yep.
I hope he goes to a team where he gets to play 25, 30 minutes a night. I genuinely do believe that Keon will be a rotation player in the NBA. I don't think that if he does get moved that he's just going to be a throwaway piece. I think when Portland got him, I think Joe and Mike thought of him as a athletic young piece that they could develop or at worst flip for something else because he has value.
Right.
But he does need and deserve minutes. So I hope he does get a chance to go somewhere else. But I also hope Portland gets something back for him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything to add on Josh. I think you hit the nail right on the head. If I was gambling, I'd put the bet that Josh is gone. But, I was reminded of a story a couple years ago. Like, I remember Kyle Lowry was as good as traded because Toronto wasn't going to lose Kyle Lowry for nothing.
Mm-hmm. And then they effed around and they didn't get Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah. And
I was literally talking to a Raptors reporter about that this morning.
Yeah, and they didn't get what they wanted, and he chose Miami in free agency, and they got nothing for him. Like, sometimes that happens, but I think this is a different situation. The Keon thing, I think he'd be really served to go to like a young team. I'm just throwing out an example, like a Houston Rockets, a team.
No, not Houston. Anywhere but Houston. Houston is where prospects go to die.
Okay, all right, we're anti-Houston right now.
Yeah,
okay.
Orlando, Detroit, San Antonio.
Kind of got a logjam at that guard position.
Okay, San Antonio,
I'm with you.
Any of the other young teams but Houston, I would not wish that upon Keon.
I'm okay. That's totally fair. San Antonio might be throwing lobs to Wemby next year. Who knows? But what I would say is, I was reading something earlier, and I know we got trade questions in here. I'm not as plugged in. 2 players I've been reading about, Vandy and Beasley in Utah, who are clearly being shopped right
Utah's
now.
another team because they've got veteran point guard in Conley and Clarkson, who are probably going to get moved.
So the verbiage coming out of Utah is very interesting. It went from Danny's going to want the world for all these dudes to like a first-round pick.
Huh.
Not
almost,
even a pick.
Almost if you were listening to the show back in August.
And Danny, let's just use the former guy in charge in Portland. If he was to trade for a Keon, what do you think he would say in the press conference?
Oh, it's like a first round pick.
Keon is like a first round pick. And so I saw those tea leaves, connected the dots. I don't know if Portland's going to go for them. I'm just simply throwing out. That's what the messaging out of Utah is now. It's like a first round pick. Keon's first round pick. Blazers got him. He still has a lot of untapped potential.
Yeah. I think you were very much online for sure. This from Ty Forshee at Ty4. Why aren't we seeing the Blazers play a little more? Additionally, why are we seeing Billups choosing to play Simons with full bench units at times instead of staggering Dame and Simons excuse me, with GP2 and Little? I'm
actually curious your answer on this because I was wondering if he's on a minutes restriction.
So I actually got a clarification on this. The only person right now on a minutes restriction is GP2. I don't know why Nasir isn't playing more. It was a discussion among media members, particularly last night, when we all looked down. And again, Shaden had a nice night. 26 minutes, nice night? I don't know. Nasir played 13.
Yeah. And he was efficient in the 13 minutes he got.
Knocked down his 2 threes, and I had somebody say, well, he had nothing other than his 2 threes. You know, no rebounds, no assists, no steals. He played like 2 4-minute shifts or 2 5-minute shifts. Like it was, he didn't get a whole lot of burn. I think if you flip those minutes between the two, I mean, Nasir has shown that he's a very consistent offensive rebounder, especially for a big guard or an average size wing. I was a little surprised. I would actually like to see Nas play some minutes at the 2.
Dude, I also, can I just add real quick before you go off of why you want him at the 2? He brings you juice defensively.
Yes, that's the thing.
You can see it, you can hear it, you can feel it. Like having a guy out there, and by the way, could not be happier watching a player right now than Nas. He's been staying healthy. I know it hasn't been long, but he's been staying healthy. He's hitting his shots when he gets the opportunity. He's not playing big minutes, but I think he brings you juice defensively. It's something this team desperately needs.
Yeah, and we talked about the other night how he went out and took the bull by the horns, so to speak, and was like, I'm going to be at the top of the zone with Jeremy.
Yep.
And I asked Chauncey about that. He's like, yeah, that's what we want out of him. We want him, like, it's not a small thing to stick Ant and Dame in the corners of a zone because you're so small in the help, but he wanted to take that challenge on, and we want guys who want to take that challenge on. And that's the thing is I think Nasir is coming correct every single time he comes on the floor.
Right.
And that is not something you can say about everybody on this team right now.
Yeah.
So that is a question that I have when the Blazers get back into town. A lot of the questioning last night had to do with either just kind of general stuff or Simons over the last kind of like 5 or 6 games because there's been a noticeable trend in his shot profile changing and his playmaking increasing, turnovers down, defensive attitude, all those kind of things. So I think everybody was kind of monitoring that. I think the next thing that everybody's kind of talking about is Little's minutes and how that ultimately ends up playing out. As far as the rotation stuff goes, I think part of the reason that the rotation changed from Dame playing like the whole first and third quarter, basically, or 10 minutes of each quarter, and then coming out and Ant being kind of the split in between guy. Now Ant's playing the first 10 of the first and third. The big part of that for me is that it gets Shaden with Dame more. So you can offset some of Shaden's stuff all the time with Dame. And that burden doesn't fall on Ant. And Ant is playing with Jeremy and Josh more.
Yeah.
So it kind of levels some things off as far as that stuff goes. That's what it looks like to me. So I think the bench has been more consistent in that vein too. I think you've seen a little bit more from Shaden over like the last 10, 12 days when they've kind of gone to that change. Have you noticed the same?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're seeing a slightly more confident player when you have a guy like Dame alongside you doing what he's doing.
And GP's usually kind of at the 3 spot to kind of bolster him.
Yeah, he's kind of guiding him a little bit as they're going along. GP made some really good plays in the minutes that he gave last night, not just the lob pass. I thought he did some good things offensively. I thought he made some really good defensive plays. I still maintain, man, he might be, no disrespect meant to Nurk, but like he might be their second best screener. The way
there's no doubt about
screens,
that
the way
at all.
he rolls. Yeah, I just think he knows exactly what he's doing in that sense. And I think he just makes Shaden feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Shaden could go into, let's say, any other team situation, team picking high, picking him. He'd probably get more minutes, he'd get more shots. That don't mean it's always a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes going out there and watching a vet like Dame operate while you have a mentor in GP2 kind of guiding you along the way. And I think sometimes you see this. You see it kind of click for him. Now, it's not consistent.
Kawhi with the Spurs. It's the same kind of situation. Like,
it's like, come along with us and, hey, no, go do this. Hey, no, go be here. Hey, go do this. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing.
Yeah, no, I think very much the kind of the same thing. And finding that balance and changing the lineups, that's not an easy thing for guys to do.
No.
Like, Dame has been in that rotation forever.
Play the whole first quarter, sit the second, and now we've switched it up a little bit.
So for him to make that change, it's no small sacrifice for him. Like, these guys are all creatures of habit. For him to be like, all right, like you got to deal with this kind of situation, it is. Somebody in the comments asked how long I was out from the radio. Just real quick, I was just out today because I was getting an MRI. So I will be back in the studio tomorrow. I will be out once I have surgery, which is coming in a couple weeks. So
I'm surprised you're not taking some of our technology to the hospital and just stacking it up at the hospital.
Just live stream on the Via.
Yeah,
it's not a bad idea. Maybe by that time we'll have our YouTube / Twitch deal up, and I can get live stream from the hospital. I'll sign the waivers. You guys want to watch my hip surgery live?
The funny thing is going to be when you take a commercial break and the nurse helps you to go take a piss and you come back and the camera slipped, you don't know it. It's going right up your gown.
You kidding me? I'm going to do it on purpose. It's only Dan's, baby. It's the debut.
Oh,
God. This from that almost sounded really bad. From Chris Fletcher at C Fletcher 1922. Is it possible Portland simply doesn't do anything at trade deadline? Man, my tongue is just blah. I feel like it should be trade for OG or nobody. Okay.
That's a big trade.
I'm going to work backwards on this.
Okay.
I do not believe that OG is ending up in Portland.
It certainly doesn't feel that way.
I do believe that there's a strong likelihood he gets moved.
New York.
I think your front runner is Memphis.
Oh, who would they move out of Memphis? Just out of curiosity.
They have a pile of picks.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
They have a pile of picks.
But they like their picks. They like their picks.
This is when you cash it in.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they're in win now mode already. So you had OG.
They could give up a lot of draft capital in Danny Green's contract, and go. All right, thank you. We're gonna roll out John Morant, Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, OG Anunoby, and Jaren Jackson Jr. and say, good luck scoring.
Brandon Clark coming off the bench. Oh my God.
Steven Adams for a team that has like a real big. Throw Xavier Tillman in there just to beat the shit out of somebody.
Oh man, I'm jealous of Memphis.
Yeah, they probably still need a little more of like a guard creator, but
they'll figure it out.
Memphis scares the crap out of me.
It should scare the crap out of everybody in the West because guess what? They're all in their 20s.
So they'll be in cap hell eventually, but it won't matter if they're doing like what the Warriors were doing, which is just winning and winning and winning.
Yeah.
It's like, again, I don't think they're like a multi-title team like that, but like if you're
never know.
constantly in it, then you just pay. Because we've already seen in Memphis, when they're rolling, that city rides with that team.
Yep.
So I think I'd put OG moving at like 35-40%, which some people probably doesn't sound like a lot. That's a big number for me.
Well, that's a big trade. I mean,
Yes.
People need to understand. I want to say this before we get to other trade questions. Even that trade, OG, and wherever you would place him in the NBA, like even that level of trade, that's a big trade at the trade deadline. Usually there's like these small little role guy moves. Getting big trades doesn't always happen every year. So getting an OG trade, I think, is a pretty sizable trade.
Is it possible Portland doesn't do anything at the trade deadline? Yes. Is it likely? No.
We took the over last podcast we did, right?
One and a half deals take the
half,
over.
yeah.
Yes. It's not just like Portland's just going to do one deal. I don't. Yeah. And if you're talking 1.5 players, I'm definitely smashing the over because I think at least 3 guys get moved. So, just because of the way the money goes. This from Scott, at Scott PTB 30. What is your minimum expectation for the trade deadline where you would come away happy? Mine is to have more rotation players after February 9th than before February 9th.
Say that question again. You cut out for a second for me.
What is your minimum expectation for the deadline where you would come away happy? And then he said, mine is to have more rotation players after February 9th than before February 9th.
Yeah.
Go ahead on this one.
I hate to sound like a dud. I don't really have much more of an expectation than that. I'd like them. I mentioned Vandy. I mentioned Beasley. I don't know where Portland stacks with those dudes, but if you told me there was a deal where they could throw a Keon and a Josh and get that, like that's kind of what I'm expecting mentally. Yeah. I'm not expecting much more than that. I think it'd be a bad expectation. If you get more, there you go. You've exceeded your expectations, but that's about my expectation. Getting you 2 guys who will play versus in that deal, you'd be sending 1 guy who plays for you versus the other guy can't crack the rotation because you're already guard heavy.
And you're getting quasi bigger.
Yeah, you get Vandy, who's nice to have.
Vando's 6'8", 6'9", super long, mobile.
Yep.
He becomes your backup 4.
What's Malik, 6'5"?
6'4" and a half. He was just here with Utah, and I was like, he walked by me, and I was like, he's not 6'5". I can't remember who it was sitting baseline with me. It was one of the Trailblazers who was sitting next to me, and it might have been Nas because Nas is somebody I've gone back and forth about heights because both him and Josh are both listed at 6'5", and he is at multiple times gone just like him.
Nas is always honest too. Nas is like, no, that's not true.
He's like, if he's 6'5", I'm 6'6". He's very adamant about it.
Right.
But I was like, yeah, Beasley's not 6'5". Beasley's. I would say Beasley and Ant look like they're about the same size. They look like they're both 6'4". But Beasley gives you another guy who can dribble, pass, and shoot. Mm-hmm. Like you can put him on the floor and not be worried. Like Malik Beasley is a playoff player.
Oh, I think he'd be excited to be here too because I think you can tell where Utah's going, where he's like he'd get to come play with Dame and that opportunity.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is again, he was a guy who was on that Denver team when they played each other a couple years ago, and looking at this team, they need more shooting. Flat out, they need more shooting. Having the ability to go, Ant, Beasley, or excuse me, having 2 of Dame, Ant, Beasley on the floor at any given time is huge. Because now you've got at least 2, not just good, but plus shooters with Jeremy, Nasir if he continues to do what he does. And you can put lineups out there where if your big is a non-shooter, let's use Nerlens for this because he's entirely a rim runner.
Right.
It's okay because your shooting is improved while also your vertical presence has improved. So when you do run pick and rolls and he does run down the lane, you do actually have a vertical threat.
Right.
The Blazers do not have that vertical gravity threat. And so you get the shooting, which opens some lanes a little bit more. You saw the way the Blazers closed last night with 5 shooters. They spread everybody out with Dame and Ant. And for whatever reason, decided to throw a hard double at Damian Lillard at 40 feet. One pass away from Anthony Simons.
Look, no disrespect meant to your guy Ant. The reason you do that is because that man can't miss.
It was
he's so damn good.
Dame literally goes, look, you want to throw 2 at me at 40 feet and leave one of the best 3-point shooters in the league 1 pass away? Go ahead. If you're gonna make it that easy for me, go ahead.
To bring it back, so I'm sitting next to my daughter, and we're watching that possession,
and
I see Dame drive, and I see, was it Hunter or who was it?
I think it was DeAndre 1 pass away.
I think it was Hunt. I think DeAndre drops down, And I immediately, before even Ant shot, I go, well, that was a mistake. And he kicks it out to Ant, and I was like, swish.
Even Ant was like, he kind of giggled when he was like,
it was wide open.
He was like, I didn't think I'd be that open.
Sometimes you miss those shots because you're almost so thrown off by what's going. You're like, wait, what?
He was like, I did not expect that. As people in the comments are talking about, we're adding another 6'4" guy and that being the missing piece. No, use your ears, critical thinking. Adding another guy to the team who can shoot. If Josh Hart is leaving and you're getting a guy back who's on the floor who can shoot, will shoot, volume shoot. While you're adding Jared Vanderbilt, who is 6'8" or 6'9",
help some of your depth problems in the big spot.
You're adding size and you're adding shooting.
And by the way, he may end up being a damn good basketball player. But again, for that crowd, you're sending Josh out. So
who's one guy in your rotation, and Keon, who's in your deep bench, who is not playing. So you're elevating the back end of your bench.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't the world-beating move. Nobody is casting it as such. It is an example of a move where you're getting more rotation players. Because the back end of the Blazers' rotation is not something you can rely on. If I told you had the option between Keon Johnson, who I very much like, or Malik Beasley, it's very easy to know which way you're going to go. It's Malik Beasley. Mm-hmm. That's an okay thing to have. And again, when I'm not talking about putting Dame, Ant, and Malik on the floor at the same time, I'm saying you can have two of those three on the floor at any given time. That's a good place to be.
Yeah, to me, it's not even. I'm not getting as deep as like we're talking about the future and championship stuff here. Like,
this is just.
This team wants to climb the ladder. They want to climb 3-4 games. They want to get back into this play-in/playoff. That was always kind of their goal. I just think you're trading two players, but you're really trading one player for two guys who are going to come to the rotation. The other part about Malik, he's a drastically different player than Josh. He's not going to do what Josh is doing in some aspects. But I know that when Malik is open in the corner of the wing and he gets a sick pass from Dame or Ant or whoever, he's not going to hesitate. He's going to shoot the ball. You need that. Like that, there have been games. I'm not pinning everything on him, but there have been games where Josh has passed up possessions.
There have been two games that it has absolutely cost them.
It's thrown their offensive rhythm off. And again, he is a very good basketball player. Do not want
both things can be existing at the same time.
So yes, for that audience that's suggesting this isn't the world-beating move, I'm trying to set expectations for people here, because I think, Danny, you get inundated with people that say, oh, this, that. And, I got people that are always like, oh, what do you do, this, that. And, like, for me, it's more so saying that's as good as I'm expecting it to be. And if it's better, well, shoot, we'll talk about that. If it's different, we'll talk about that. But, like, what's your expectation? There's my expectation. Mm-hmm. A Vando and a Beasley would be great. I think it would help this team tremendously.
And you're addressing two issues, like two birds, one stone.
Yeah.
Adding shooting, adding creation, adding size. Like, those are the things that everybody keeps saying that they want to do. You're not going to trade Josh or Nurk and get like this franchise-altering piece. What you can get is stuff that makes more sense.
Yeah.
And that's what matters. I saw somebody say something along the lines of, what about just like getting bigger by playing Jeremy Grant at his natural small forward position? Well, that's a red herring. Jeremy Grant's natural position is not small forward. His natural position is 4. You can say he's a poor rebounding 4. That's fine. But the idea of him playing the small forward, you can go to Cleaning the Glass, or if you don't, I will put a link in there with a screenshot. Jeremy Grant's numbers at 3 throughout his career are significantly worse than they are at the 4. What makes Jeremy Grant good is that while he's supremely athletic, it's his ability to get past other 4s. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have that same level of get past when it comes to 3s. That's where that whole little spot works. That's why he's been so much more successful at the 4 spot as a big wing as opposed to a wing. So I see that come up from time to time, but yeah, his natural position is 4. Maybe in the NBA 20 20 years ago, you can argue he's a super big 3. But otherwise, he's a 4. He's a 4 in today's NBA. This from Zach at Zach Backpacks. What's more likely the deadline? Trade Hart and Nurk for a center. Nas gets promoted. Trade Hart for bench depth. Nurk stays. Nas gets promoted. We make a trade for an upgrade at small forward.
The middle one.
I think the first one, but I don't think it's for a center. I think it could be 2 different deals. I think both can get traded.
Sure.
Without Hart having to be attached to Nurk, although there are multiple deals out there that I've heard discussed that would be Hart and Nurk together. And I've heard other ones where they're 2 totally separate transactions.
But if you were to guess, I mean, look,
I think they both get moved.
Okay, that's fair to say. It feels really over with Nurk. I mean, this is not like the prototypical conversation we've probably had in the media and amongst fans for 2 years now.
Of like, they should probably move on from him.
Yeah, no, this feels like...
It feels like the divorce papers are being served.
This is Tom and Giselle.
Yeah.
Some people are out there and like, no, like give him a little more time. They'll figure this out.
He'll take a month off from practice and go figure this whole thing out.
Right, and then he comes back and like, yo, we actually just signed those divorce papers. Like I feel like they're drawn up right now.
I'm actually dating a 25-year-old IG model. It would blow your mind.
But to be fair to the question, I'm going to go with the middle one there, and it's a pessimistic viewpoint, but I think they should move Nurk. I think it's not good right now. But I would say more likely Nurk's here, Josh trades for the package we just talked about. For you sub in and switch things up and put Nas in the starting lineup.
One way or the other, I have not heard a deal yet outside of some Crowder stuff, and I don't think there's a lot of smoke around that fire that will turn into a starting 3 coming back in a Hart or Nurk deal. I think one way or the other, Nasir Little will be the starting 3 after the deadline.
Did you see Masai and James Jones walk into the tunnel? Not that execs don't talk, but it was just funny how they looked like, let's go draw this deal up.
Listen, all I'll say is, man, Portland's been at home for the last 2 weeks, and there's been a lot of teams that have come through.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's just that, some of us here in Portland give the team maybe a little bit of privacy. Christiana at Christiana Mayer. Why is Jeremy Grant waiting till the end of the year? Does he want more money? And this is, I would guess, in regards to Jeremy's extension. Gun to my head, I would be not uncertain that a wink and a nod deal is already in place for Jeremy. I would imagine that number is between 30 and 32 annually.
Yeah.
When it's all said and done, if you're talking about maybe having to pay a tax and take a 5th year on this, basically bump it up to $5,150. I'm not mad at that. He's 28 years old. Mm-hmm. Does he look like the kind of guy whose game is really going to age poorly?
No. I would actually argue his game might look pretty good.
I think he's Thad Young.
Yes. Yeah, that's
is he going to average 21 like a career year every year? No, but I can very much see, like, is he going to be maybe slightly overpaid in one of those years? Don't think so, because the TV deal blowing up, his deal's not tied as a percentage to the cap, so it's not going to be astronomical. I think it's pretty easy to see him being at that line. He's outplayed the 4-1-12. He's outplayed it.
But that's why he doesn't sign it, by the way. Yeah,
there is no reason for him to sign that. And I'm happy about that. And you know who else is happy about that? The Blazers. They're happy that he's turned in literally his best year as a pro.
Well,
and they're more than willing to pay him.
Flip it the other way. Imagine he doesn't have a great year, and you're like, well, we got to keep him. We got to give him 4-1-12.
Yeah, we gotta pay him now. Oh God,
I thought his quote. I think he said it to the Athletic. Like, his quote, something to the effect of, it'll work itself out. I love being
we'll
here.
talk to Joe at the end of the summer. I'm happy. I love it here. Yeah.
He's doing the right things publicly, but there's a genuine nature to him, and I think they understand it. As you said, a wink and a nod, and him and Dame are clicking, and I think he wants to be here.
Yeah, $30 million a year for Jeremy Grant doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother me. There's always the Portland tax. There is. But I genuinely think that Jeremy is happy here, and from a personal / selfish standpoint, I really enjoy Jeremy. Not just on the floor, but like as a dude, he's a genuinely interesting and fun person to talk to. I've taken to talking to him about fashion over the last couple of weeks because like he's genuinely interested. Not league fits, just getting stuff off.
Right.
Like he genuinely cares about it. He spent a bunch of time at Fashion Week in Paris. I was talking about that before he came to Summer League, and the things he wants to do with it, like getting into designing his own stuff and working with like different people to come up with like. He's just a really unique, like very introspective, thoughtful dude, and I like having him around. I just genuinely in the locker room. Even though he doesn't say really anything without first being talked to, everybody's drawn to him.
Yeah.
Somebody called him kind of a yogi, just kind of zen all the time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just always on balance, always on keel. And there's something to be said about having a guy like that in your locker room, who's so high up the pecking order. Like you just look over and you see that dude is always on balance. Like, I think you need to have a guy like Gary Payton who's always on tilt. But you need to have the other guy who's just always just kumbaya in the moment, man. It's super cool. Yeah. But as far as like, does he want more money? Yes. Does he deserve more money? Yes. Will he get more money? Yes. Will he leave Portland? No.
Yep.
Barring a radical change, I don't think there's a world that exists that he leaves. Somebody asked if Jeremy was the origin for my cardigan. He was not. Holdall was the origin. Bill Oram was the enforcer of it.
Oram.
And then I'm Team Cardigan now. So
I like that. I like that you've adjusted your wardrobe. You're fitting in a little bit more.
A little bit. I'm literally wearing a hoodie and sweats right now because I just came from the doctor. But otherwise, right. I'm trying to upgrade the style a little bit.
Yeah.
I did wear the cardigan with Crocs the other day, so I'm really pushing it.
That's the most Portland outfit you've ever worn in your life.
Listen, man, people don't know it. Like, other than going to games, I don't wear regular shoes. It's so hard for my hip for me to put shoes on. I literally just go into sport mode, man, and just slide into the Crocs. I am literally wearing them right now.
I was going to – what are those called? What do they call them? The jibs?
The giblets. My wife is the one who – she's like – if you're going to wear those on the time, I am going to put giblets on there.
Yeah. So I got a pair for Christmas. I don't like them, but I got giblets all over them.
Yeah? You don't like them?
No, I hate Crocs.
Are they comfortable, though?
They're not bad. I'm not going to argue with the comfort. It's a ridiculously ugly shoe.
Listen, I will hear no slander.
Give me a Nike or Jordan slide all day, please. Please.
I do like these have the sport mode, though.
Oh,
two-wheel and four-wheel drive.
That's the other thing. The fact that we have a shoe that has holes all over it, and we call it sport mode it's like it's you know who it is? It's Steve Carell's character in 40-Year-Old Virgin when he's painting this toy soldier. He's like, now I'm gonna make you shiver prints blue. That's what I think of when I hear people go, oh, I got sport mode now. Like, that's what I hear in my head is his character saying.
Look, man. My legs, my hips are broken. Having that safety is crucial. Traction.
I'm not trashing your decision to wear for people to wear, but I am trashing the shoe in general. And it's ridiculous that we call something sport mode. Sport mode because you put your little strap behind your Achilles.
Scott Roberts, SJ-17. Best guess on the backup or new starting center they pick up at the deadline. If they are committed to not tanking, they have to add some size.
This is yours, man.
Look, man, this is a long list. Yeah. I don't know. I don't have a best guess right now. I don't know which way they're going. I have heard, 8 different names.
Throw them out quick, rapid fire.
Bamba, Hartenstein, Noel. I've heard Wendell Carter Jr., but I think that was like somebody else.
Orlando's got to keep him.
I don't think there's a world like it would cost a truckload to get him. I'm trying to rack my brain of who else I did. Obviously, Ayton.
Turner can technically be traded, right? I don't think he will trade him, but he can technically. I
have been told that he will not. He has been taken off the block at least until this summer.
And then we'll hear about it again, and they won't trade him.
But between he will. I have been told that he has been given assurances from the team and the organization he will not be traded at the deadline.
Okay.
So.
So that's generally who you're talking about.
Yes.
Those guys. Okay.
There's somebody else that I'm trying to think of, but I can't remember. Oh, Plum Dog. Plum Dog did come up too.
Okay.
Plum
Dog.
I think he's a non-sneaky candidate to get moved.
He's a lefty.
I think there's a good chance that Plum Dog gets moved.
I know he might require a little more, and it really wouldn't make sense from a NERC asset standpoint. Naz Reid, I know his name's kind of been thrown out
Naz
there.
was one of them. I've heard different valuations on him.
Yeah, me too.
As far as like what it would take to get him out of Minnesota, I think Portland kicked around Pirtle, but not. But I don't think that their valuation stands to match what San Antonio thinks they can get out of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have a clue as to who that name would be. Oh, thank you. Brandon put it in the chat. Gafford from Washington was the other one.
Oh, Daniel Gafford.
Yeah.
Quick question. I haven't watched as many games of theirs as I've liked, but when I watch League Pass, Rashawn Holmes.
I've had that name thrown at me probably a half dozen times, and Sacramento is a team that Portland has traded with. Cleveland is the team they've traded with the most over the last 10 years. Sacramento is number 2. So there are relationships there.
He's fallen out of their rotation.
He has, and I don't think Monty McNair is going to be able to keep him.
Yeah.
The idea of Rashawn Holmes seems so much better than the actual Rashawn Holmes, and I don't mean that as slanderous. I think Rashawn's a good player.
I know what you mean.
But he's been banged up, and I think that I haven't heard any links to them.
Gotcha.
But also Sacramento's running things a little bit different than they have in the past, where they used to just be the leakiest ship known to man. They're not buttoned up, but they are not nearly as tight as or not nearly as open as they used to be.
Good for them though.
Yes. Like with Portland, Joe and his team do not let much get out.
You can't find
how they operate.
You get random weird rumor mill trade stuff, but you're not getting any concrete. I don't care who you read, where you read. You ain't getting any intel right now.
Nope, you are not getting it from Woj Shams, not one bit. So, and the stuff that you read about Portland in person or in the trade rumors and stuff like that, it's all from other teams.
Yeah,
it's not from Portland. It's not how they operate. But yeah, as far as like naming that big, I know. That's like throwing money down on roulette right now.
Yeah.
But I also think that in saying that, they're canvassing. Like there's multiple guys that they're looking at. I will say this: Hartenstein sounds like if he's moved, it will not be to Portland. I have heard of other teams that are more.
Clippers are sniffing around that.
The Clippers are the one that I hear is the favorite to go back to. And the big name, obviously, in Ayton, I've been told by I mentioned this on the After Dark last night, that Matt Ishbia, the new owner, is not interested in entertaining deals for Book, McHale, Cam, and DeAndre. So they want to move Crowder, for sure, and they want to get something out of him. And I've been told that if the right deal came along, that they would be willing to listen on Chris Paul, but they'd much rather do it in the summer to see if they can get healthy here, make some tweaks, and maybe make a run. So that's kind of the way I think I would go with that. So I wouldn't expect an Ayton deal and at the deadline.
Yeah. This is kind of the reason I put more of the eggs. It very well could be wrong here, but It's kind of why I put more of the eggs in the Josh Keon basket.
Sure.
And just say like Nurk just for whatever. They suck it up and they go and they wait till the summertime.
I have heard that Toronto is still interested in Nurk too.
Okay.
So they still have a guy in Philadelphia that they need to deal with if they do get to the playoffs.
That's true.
And you just have to have a behemoth.
You need a big body, yeah.
So as long as Joel Embiid is in that conference, you're going to need just a monster human being.
Well, you give us Pascal, we'll give you Yusuf, and you can good luck to you against Philly.
I think the way, like the teams that I could imagine being interested in Nurk besides Toronto, Charlotte, Dallas, Washington, if they wanted to move KP back kind of the 4 to hide him.
Yeah.
I could see a world where Miami would, but you'd have to take Duncan Robinson back.
You taking Deadman back?
Yeah, Duncan Robinson and
I don't know if I want that contract.
No, I don't either.
That's aging like sour milk.
Yo, yeah, I had somebody say, but like, what if you took Duncan with like Caleb Martin, the first round pick? And I'm like, that's still throwing the medicine down with some sugar. Like,
yeah, what's he got? 3-4 years?
I think he has 3 more years left. It's
5 for 90 after like having a great year shooting. Good for him.
Yeah. So, yeah. Again, I don't think Nurk or Hart are back after the deadline. I think Hart, because of the contractual stuff, you just kind of have to figure that out. I also think there's a lot of interest.
Yeah.
With the Nurk stuff, I just think it's untenable.
They very well.
I don't think you can close the season with him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to look at, or talk to people off the record to get information about deals or anything like that. I could just look on the floor and see who's not there.
Oh, you could see it on your screen. I mean,
that's what I mean.
God,
like, it's not
watch and feel it.
And that's the thing is, there's a question here about vibes, and that's where I wanted to go next with this. There we go. Just for News 8258. That's a very specific title. Are the vibes getting messed up by the prospects of trade, and why isn't Nas playing more? His shooting potentials are great. We kind of already touched on the Nas stuff, but are the vibes getting messed up by prospects of trades? I don't think they entirely are, but I do think there's a little bit of some sour juju around Josh and Nurk, for sure. More so Nurk than Josh. Josh, I don't think mentally, emotionally, spiritually, even if he was like vehemently pissed off about everything in the world, which he is at all times, and I mean that in the most endearing way possible. I love that about him. He's such a basketball pro on the floor that I don't think it's going to bother him one bit. Nurk, I think it bothers.
Yeah. I mean, look, one's slightly more of a head case, I think, than the other. One gets more impacted by off-court things and slightly on-court things than the other. Josh, I would imagine Josh got here and Josh felt like, hey, I might be a part of this team's future. I think Josh is smart enough, been in the league long enough to understand, like, all right, going into the year, I might be a piece.
He's on his third team in 5 years. He's this generation's Jay Crowder. Good player that everybody wants, but also because he's a good player that everybody wants, he gets moved around.
Right. And whereas like the other one, and I hope, by the way, you're right and I'm wrong, but I think whatever he was in Denver and what caused them to throw in that trade with Plum Dog, I think we finally reached like whatever he was, we've gotten that. He is clearly unhappy. I didn't expect him to sit the other night. That was random. And then he plays 6 seconds in the fourth quarter in their game last night against Atlanta. And I'm just like, there's not more writing on the wall than when you sign a guy to a 4-year, $70 million deal. And you're just barely past the halfway point of the season to sit him after 6 seconds in the fourth quarter when you need size. Like,
or I mean, you can even go earlier when you sign him to that deal and he plays EuroLeague and he comes into camp out of shape.
Which is crazy to me still to think about, like how much we heard he was in shape.
And then he very clearly was not in shape.
And then, he gets over here and it's like, yo, you're not even close to being in shape.
Yeah.
I watched him in EuroLeague, and I'm like, okay, he'll at least be in better shape. He looked like he hadn't played basketball in a year.
It took him a month to get up.
Yeah.
So I think there were some markers there from the start, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But that's just...
Not that we can play this. I don't want to play this game because I don't want to drag the pod on too long on this one topic. It would have been fascinating to see who would have signed him. Had Portland just like, you know what?
Oh, yeah.
I think we're actually out on this. We're not going to bring you back. We'll figure this out a different way just to see who that team would have been and what he would have got. Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting thought process to kind of figure out who, and it's probably a good way to inform who would be interested in him now.
Sure.
Because likely those same teams would be interested, even if they got somebody. Bruce Caesar Bennett has a quick question. Any news on Winslow? I saw him on the floor shooting is a generous way of putting it. It was a very ginger, light shot taking 5 feet from the rim. Unless he makes a rapid recovery in the next 3 days, I don't think he's on the floor before the break.
Okay.
I don't see it. I think there's a couple other little ones in here. David Lauder, is the best path forward missing the playoffs to have a lottery pick to either trade or draft? No. Just talking to people around the league and just kind of getting an understanding. It's better for Portland to make the playoffs this year so that the pick is just taken care of.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, but if this draft, you can say that about every draft. But Vanda or Wemby, it's like, you cannot build the foundation of your team around building it up, tearing it down, building it up, tearing it down, building it up, tearing it down multiple years in a row.
No, they've already asserted their position on that. No matter how you feel about it, they've already made it clear. So.
Yes. So as far as that goes, Spencer Pools at Spence P99. What do you see as Drew Eubanks' future role with the team? Is he a permanent guy at backup center, or do you think the Blazers attempt to make an upgrade? I think they're always interested in upgrades, but I don't think that necessarily means Drew is gone. I think in a perfect world, Drew is your third big, where he's not playing backup minutes every single night, but on nights when you need somebody like him,
right?
Then you're you can see when he's overmatched. It's very clear. But when he has an advantage, it's also very clear.
Yeah.
And I think on those nights, having him as an option is your 9th or 10th guy is a fantastic thing to have. But I don't know if I necessarily believe in him as the backup. I said that coming into the season. I love Drew. I love that he's a red ass. I love how hard he works. I love his hook shots. But he's just too light in the ass. He just is.
He's a white boy.
I mean, he's just... it's not that he's not physical himself. It's just that he can be moved out of the way.
Yeah.
And
he's a great dude to have, though. He obviously loves doing the hometown thing, which is kick ass. I mean, we don't get that very often here. And Joe labeled him that before the season started. It's he's probably our third center, but we probably gonna have to play him because of where we're at with our depth.
There's literally talk. Remember, it was Trendon or Jeremy that were gonna play center minutes.
Yes. And lo and behold, you've had to play him almost starter minutes because of the situation we just talked about.
Yeah. So I don't think there's a world where Drew has to go anywhere. But
no.
I think this is a good one to wrap on. Credence at Credence26. If the Blazers can stay under the cap and sign a vet min, would they do it? If so, who do you think they would consider? If they can stay under the cap and sign a vet min, would they? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think there's a place that exists where they have to trade off GB2 for a highly, highly, highly protected second round pick, top 55 protected, just to get off the money, to get under. And then you sign a guy on the buyout market with a prorated vet min, and you're still able to stay under the tax. As far as who that is, those names will change after the trade deadline once we know who's on the buyout market. But there's going to be a crap ton of competition for those guys. So maybe the Blazers visit a Myers Leonard, DeMarcus Cousins, whatever type big, if they needed to.
Oh, you think they kicked around that idea? I know he did an interview with ESPN. I haven't seen it yet, but
I think they would kick around the idea of a big. Those are the two that are always I've seen them in the comments tonight 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I don't think that Carmelo Anthony will ever wear a Blazers jersey again. Praise be. For my own sanity. Somebody asked if I think Myers gets picked up by an NBA team. Yeah, I do. I think there's a good chance that he gets picked up after the buyout market stuff.
I mean, he was starting for Miami before the incident. So,
and from what I heard, he had a great workout with the Lakers. So, yeah, I mean, he's a 7-footer who can knock down threes. Everybody's kind of looking at it. Shooting with size, hard to find. But yeah, I think that's kind of where we're at. There's a couple questions in here that I didn't get to that I want to circle back to in a couple more days. But again, thank you guys for getting your questions in. If we didn't get to it this time, we will circle back to them again. We'll post these up. The games tomorrow.
Memphis, yeah.
Memphis. We will have the live watch party open for everybody to go into. I'll post a link on Twitter and here on the YouTube channel in the community section. Hopefully you can all come by, check it out, enjoy the game. Should be fun. Looks like Steven Adams is not going to go. Bane's a little nicked up, but I think those are the two big ones. Everybody else, I believe, is going to be good to go. So we'll have an update on Nurk and Josh are both probable, so I think they'll go without issue. And again, Justice is already ruled out. So as always, guys, you can find us on social media at Jacked Ramsays, at Danny Marang, at Brandon Sprague. You can email the show, jackedramsays@gmail.com. A bunch of you have been reaching out to me on IMs or DMs on Instagram. I'm not saying not to do that. I'm saying I don't check them very often. Just as a heads up. The only IG DMs I check with any frequency are the 1080 The Fan ones.
Yeah.
And that's just because it's part of my job. Other than that, I am not, and I am not on IG nearly as much. If you're trying to DM me, Twitter is the better way to do it. And even then, it takes me a minute to kind of circle back through it because I usually do it like once or twice a day. But you can find Brandon tomorrow morning, 6 to 9, with his co-host Andy Dirt Johnson on Dirt and Sprague in the morning, where I'm sure they will have all kinds of fun stuff to talk about. Whole bunch of coaches got hired. And then you can catch me tomorrow with Danny and Dusty at noon to 3, also on 1080 The Fan. Other than that, I think we're good to go. You got anything else, Brandon?
No, I think you said it all. Great questions tonight. I think we dove into a lot, and Memphis should be interesting tomorrow. I can't wait to watch that game.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to watch that game. I had to remove my Memphis Grizzlies hat before we started the show. I had a throwback Grizzlies hat on. I was like, I can't do the show with that hat on. That's not how this works.
My problem is I like the Blazers. I love a lot of teams' gear, and so I have to stop myself from purchasing more other team gear. You know what I mean?
I mean, I've got a Grizzlies Sharif Abdul-Rahim jersey.
God, I love those original ones.
Yeah.
I kind of want to find a Bryant Reeves one.
Oh yeah, no, Big Country. Yeah, I mean,
Country. Yeah,
but maybe a little too in line for me. But again, thank you guys so very much. We love you. Appreciate you. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful night, and we